All right, good evening and welcome to the Historical Commission meeting for March 30th, 2021. This meeting is being recorded. If anyone's recording the meeting, please make it known to Mr. Hamburg, the chair. Pursuant to the Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Historical Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Office of the Attorney General's webpage. The town will persevere to use conference call capabilities regularly for other parties to listen in and participate accordingly. If not possible, we will post on the town's website an audio recording as soon as possible after the meeting. Mr. Hamburg, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Doug. I appreciate it.
Call me if you need me.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. And who do we have here for our attendance?
Barb Phelps.
Jim, you here? I see. Okay, Barbara, you're here.
Yes.
And Jim Putnam.
And is Ruth Preston? Okay, I do not see Ruth Preston. Well, we do have a legal quorum, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start off with any public comments. Do you have any comments, Jim?
No, I guess I'm glad I'm here, so you have a quorum.
Okay, yeah,
No,
I'm glad you're here.
I have great respect for what this group and the Historical Society does to celebrate and preserve the history of Southwick. I think it's become more apparent over the last couple of years, and so kudos for all you've done, and hopefully I can contribute a little bit for the next few months. Just for Barbara's background, I accepted an appointment going through June 30th in the hopes that maybe as things open up here a little bit, there might be other people interested in serving on this group. I am a firm believer in new blood and so forth. So we will see, but for now, here I am.
Thank you very much. Barbara, do you have any comments?
No. So Jim, is this just a temporary assignment for you through June 30th?
That's the party line right now, Barb.
Okay, I'm taking notes.
We will see
Okay.
at June 30th where we are.
I want to welcome you to the board, Jim, and we're glad to have you here for not only the quorum, but for what you will add to this board. And I think we can forgo any further public comments unless there are other individuals that I'm unaware of. Not seeing any, I'm going to ask for the minutes of the last meeting from Barb.
Okay, now you want me to read the entire page?
Let me ask this. Does Jim have a copy of the minutes?
Yeah, they're published on the town website, and so I've seen them. I have no comment on them since I was not in attendance. So, but I would certainly support dispensing with the reading.
Okay, if I've read them, everyone has read them. Are there any points of issue or discussion?
None.
Motion to approve.
Then I will hear a motion and second to adopt the minutes as you have submitted them.
So I did make a motion to approve.
And I
The
second.
motion is carried unanimously then. Thank you very much for the wonderful note that Barbara. I appreciate that very much. Under mail, I am going to tell you that we had tons of mail. I don't know what we have received during the past few days, but Barbara turned over a good chunk of mail on several occasions. I will state right off the bat that some of it was, I'm going to state, junk mail. Some was of absolutely no concern, no issues relevant to this board. And so I am going to forego going through that. One piece of mail that I have is committee membership information, and I will fill that out to the best of my ability and submit that to the town clerk's office as recommended. Now, another one was asking for town report. That deadline came and went, and I did not submit a report in a timely fashion. I hope that you will find in your hearts to forgive me for overlooking that. I don't know whether they still have the opportunity for an annual report, but I rather suspect not, and I also suspect that our report would be very slender, to say the least. Select board and finance. I got the packet long after it was due. I did speak with Robin Solik, and in for the as we had in 2021, and I'm sure that she has done it. I got an email. I want to say 29 minutes before the commission was supposed to go before the finance committee. And because I didn't get that email until that afternoon, the finance committee met without us. So I'm hoping that the report that Robin submitted was duly recorded and approved. I have not followed up on that. Jim, would you be willing to check on our finances for fiscal year 2022?
Sure. Sure. I mean, nothing's final yet anyway, until it goes to town meeting in May. So
Right.
it's just the finance committee recommendation, but I'll find out what they've recommended.
Could you be so kind as to email the other historical commission members?
I will.
when
I
you
will.
Get that? I appreciate that.
I know people on the finance committee, so I think they will probably respond to me.
I think they're strangely understanding this year.
Yeah.
It's been a peculiar year. I have numerous printouts for our year-to-date budget report, and the most recent one that I can put my hands on is that for February. And
Lee, you've broken up on me.
Likewise.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
But you'll have to backtrack.
Okay.
Because
I will have to speak
year to-
into the speaker, I guess.
Yes, you do.
And
I
not
think every
turn my
time you
head.
put your head down, Lee, we're losing you.
All right, I'll keep my head up. I'll keep my chin up.
There you go.
We have a total operating budget until June 30th of $2,010. We have expended $0, so we still have $2,010. Is there any correction or addition to this report?
No.
Then we will,
So we must have
And-
gained interest.
I have a copy of your James N. Putnam II Historical Commission swearing in paper. Appointment paper, appropriately signed by Jessica and dated March 10th of 2021 with a nice embossed label. So I will turn that over to your papers, Barbara, to be kept with our commission records, which we will discuss later.
Yeah.
And I received the project signed copy of the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission DLTA project approval for inventorying or advertising for the inventorying of the canal from the state line to Northampton. And that had to be submitted by February 5th of 2021. I completed the application, was able to get the selectmen to sign off. And so we have a copy of that returned in our mail.
Lee,
What
when would they propose to be doing that?
I will be discussing the canal project during item 2 under old
okay.
business, Jim,
Oh, okay,
if that's all right.
sure.
Other mail that I received was copies of the project application for community preservation funding for the town of Southwick, for the police department, and for the town hall roof projects. And we will discuss that also a little bit later under new business. That is all the applicable mail that I have to share with you at this time. Has anyone else been in receipt of any mail for the Historical Commission that should be brought to our attention at this time? We will
No, but-
close the mail portion of our business meeting. Let's go to old business, line 1, which is the old library update. To give a little bit of background on this, it was recommended a number of years ago that if the town of Southwick was unable to properly maintain and utilize the old library, that it be put up for rent or sale with a preservation restriction placed on it. And that was put into action, and it was sold to Tynick Landscaping, or a subsidiary of them, I should say. And a preservation restriction was completed by the Historical Commission at the time when David Gunn was chair. And it was signed off by the Board of Selectmen and forwarded to the Massachusetts Historical Commission also for their signatory and approval. And to date, they have put on a new roof. They have put new copper roofs on the 2 exterior porches. versus interior porches. And they have done significant clapboard and trim replacement. And while Scott is not as far along as he would have liked due to a change in contractor for the porch roofs, it is significantly better than it has been in some time, and I suspect within the next few weeks they will close in the exterior and finish getting it painted. They will then be doing an extensive amount of interior work. At this point in time, they have removed plaster and lath. They have had de-leading and de-asbestosizing of the interior. And they are, I believe, in the process of doing significant work there. Barbara, have you heard any other updates that go beyond what I have just shared?
No, I have not, but I wanted to tell you that Ruth is on, but she is muted. If you didn't see her.
See who?
No.
Ruth has joined us, but she is muted.
Okay.
Oh,
Did I
now
fix
she's,
Did I fix it?
Well,
yes, you
I
did.
hope that she,
Okay.
hello, Ruth. We
Hi,
see
Lee.
you. We
I see
feel
you
your
too.
pain.
Gotta love computers.
You have, can you speak up?
I said you gotta love computers.
Oh, I love them, but we can hear you barely now, so you're in good shape.
Okay.
Item 2 on your old business is the status of the canal and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission project. Let me just back up a little bit about the canal. It was constructed in 1825 to about 1830 or so, and went from New Haven, Connecticut to Northampton, Massachusetts. It was the longest canal in New England at the time. And it was abandoned in 1847 and eventually within a few years replaced by the railroad line, which did not follow precisely, but certainly basically paralleled its route. For about, I want to say 15 to 20 years, there has been an attempt to have the canal in Massachusetts inventoried with the Massachusetts Historical Commission and then have it listed on the National Register. And through a DLTA, don't ask me what that stands for, grant, administered by the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, they are putting together a proposal going out to bid very shortly to hire a consultant to undertake inventorying the entire canal in Massachusetts. The Connecticut portion of the canal, and in Connecticut it was called the Farmington Canal most popularly, it has been on the National Register for about, I want to say 35 years. But Massachusetts hasn't even been listed with the state at this point. So this first step will get it inventoried with the state and is an important first part towards eventual, I hope, National Register listing, which would protect it from federally funded, including state projects. It would have no impact as far as private ownership or development, though, of any of the property. Are there any questions at this point as to what they are doing? They're
So
putting
what is-
together
what's the
just
timeframe, Lee?
specifications for the eventual hiring of the consultant. At this point, it is not costing the town of Southwick or the commission one penny. Once they get a price and a determination to hire a consultant, we will be asked to contribute a portion of the total cost.
I have a question.
Now, yes, Barbara.
So the grant is money to pay for this inventory, this consultant.
It is, the grant is just putting together the specifications for the consultant.
S-
It's about a 20-page document
All right,
just to
so
hire someone.
just to hire. So that's what the grant is for, is to put this together for a consultant to do this work.
Correct. At this point in time.
Okay,
The next step will be hiring, and then we will be asked to put in some hard cash. Now, the town of Southwick has a fund. There's $25,000 in it that is specifically earmarked for the canal. It can only be spent for work on the canal. So we will probably dip into that money to a certain degree when we are asked to belly up to the bar and pay for our fair share of the consultant fees at that point.
how far down the road is this projected? Before we have to
I
start,
expect that specifications for the consultant will be completed at any time. If I got an email tomorrow, I would not be surprised.
all right,
However, I also know that it might be 1 month, 2 months, or 6 months down the road just as well.
yeah,
The
Can you give
gears
us-
of government sometimes grind very slowly.
Can you give us an idea of what might need to be done on the canal?
On what?
What might need to be done on the canal?
Well, they're not intending to do any restoration on the canal itself. All they're going to be doing at that point in time will be complete mapping. They will be doing a historic research and analysis for every single community, which includes Southwick, Westfield, Russell, Southampton, East Hampton, and Northampton
Mhm.
that the canal went through. And they will also do a great deal of photography, and they will also do some sample archaeological excavations, probably, of the canal in different locations. So as of right now, that is the status. So that covers number 2, and it also gets into number 3, the utilization of historical commission funds for the canal inventory. I would like to have a formal vote to approve the expenditure of town canal funds for the inventory process. Do I hear that as a motion?
oh,
We have a, go ahead, Barb.
I was just gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve the use of these funds for the canal.
Do I hear a second?
Lee, I'd like
I
to
have-
understand, what's the request for? I mean, what amount of funds are being requested here?
I don't have a dollar amount at this time, Jim.
It doesn't seem, if there's no dollar amount, I'm uncomfortable approving an open-ended, I mean,
Okay.
we don't do that in town government and approve
Oh.
something that we don't know the amount and the specifics to? I mean, what's the purpose of approving it tonight?
All right, good point. And you sound like you belong on the finance committee, maybe.
I have a little experience there too.
You're a good businessman, Jim. Then, Barbara, would you withdraw your motion?
I will. Yes, I withdraw it.
All right. Then we will lay this on the table for another time. Once we have a price for the entire project and a price for the Southwick portion of this project.
I've canoed down that
Cemetery
canal.
marker program.
I've canoed down
Yes,
that
Bruce?
canal. Yeah, I've canoed down that canal, and the only problem I remember was trees that had gotten blown down during the snowstorm or whatever storm, and were laying in the canal and making it difficult to continue going down the canal. But I don't remember any real places that really needed something. But of course, you're not paying me, so.
I think that the removal of any trees would be great, but that isn't within the scope of this particular project as being proposed. If you know someone that wants to go out with their chainsaw and for free clear the trees, that would be great.
So exactly what is in the scope of this process?
Process will be number one, having the specifications for a consultant. Step 2 will be the hiring of the consultant. Step 3 will be a full report, photos, maps, history, and potentially archaeological interpretation of select sites along the canal. And number 5 would be a completed inventory form for the state of Massachusetts, which we would also have a copy as a local historical commission. And that would lead ultimately to a next step, which could be National Register listing.
Is it going to cost us a lot of money to be listed nationally?
It depends upon how well they do initial research on the state level. If they do a very good job, then obviously there will be less time and money expended for researching and writing the National Register form. That's the primary expense for National Register. Are there any other questions with respect to the canal project at this point?
Yes, Lee, you nicely outlined the 6 steps, but I neglected to write down step number 4.
I was just freelancing. What do you have down, Barbara?
Well, I have the specifications for the consultant number 1, hiring the consultant number 2, the consultant doing the work number 3 that have been set up for him. And number 4, I'm not sure. Number 5 was completing the inventory.
I would.
No, number 4?
You have the inventory as number 4 or number 5?
I have that number 5.
Okay, number 4 would probably include archaeological excavation of select sites.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Lee, just for clarity here, and kind of going back to Ruth's question, I mean, this is to inventory basically from the spot where the canal entered on the southern border of the jog all the way up to the Westfield line. And that includes some stretches of the original canal, not very much of that left. And then a lot of places where it's either been destroyed or obliterated, there were a lot of locks, I believe, on the once you get north of South Long Yard Road. So the archaeological would be dealing with that. But this is more than just the water portions that still exist. There's probably less than a mile or two of the original canal in any form left in Southwick. Do I have that about right?
I would think that there's actually more mileage than that, Jim. Because there are sections of the canal that extend north of Feeding Hills Road into Westfield. And there's sections of the canal. You may have done some canoeing or rowboating in the south end of South Pond.
That's what a lot of people think of the canal as, is that section at the end of South Pond that goes down through the water gap. And I was just noting that, it doesn't matter how many miles of it are left, but a lot of it has been destroyed or, is indistinguishable from Great Brook on the northern leg of it. But regardless, and of course, a couple of miles of it went basically through South and Middle Ponds, and then skirted a little bit through North Pond. So, I won't debate the wisdom of the state on this, but, it seems like a lot of the works on that's already been done by the gentleman up there in Northampton who produced the beautiful glossy map there several years ago. But I suppose if they do, archaeological work and so forth, there'll be more depth on that, but it should be interesting.
Carl Walter put together the map that you're talking about, and he's also done a dozen new maps for Connecticut. And he will probably be one of the consultants for this project, directly or indirectly would be my guess, Jim. Because he is certainly the most knowledgeable individual. I took him and the regional historic preservation planner from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission on a walk from South Long Yard Road to Great Brook, and we hit all the different surviving locks. And believe it or not, there are one or two sections that are very much intact, surprisingly. I was amazed. I hadn't walked some of this since 1975. But there are several locks that are still
What happened?
in quite.
Way to go.
Okay,
He's back.
I'm back. All right. Any other questions about the canal project? Then let's move on to item 4, the cemetery marker program. For a number of years, we have expended a significant portion of our available funds towards purchasing bronze veteran flag holding type markers for placing in the old and new cemetery. We have a number of markers that need to be put out, and it would be wise, I think, to utilize some of our funds for the purpose of acquiring new ones. David Gunn has volunteered in the past, and I think has offer is still good to assist with putting marker bases in a container of concrete so they cannot be pulled up easily by people wishing to abscond with them. And I would also like to set up a time when we can put some out, preferably before Memorial Day of this year. I believe that we have expended approximately $950 plus or minus towards purchasing these markers.
Mhm.
Does that seem like a reasonable dollar amount considering what we have and what we have not spent this year out of our budget? Open to discussion.
Lee, how many markers do we currently have that need to be planted?
We have approximately, I'm going to say 20, just a rough guess. I believe they are locked away in the town hall at this point in time, but we can get access to them, I'm sure.
Are these used just for veterans?
These are strictly for veterans.
Okay.
There are several reasons why we have been doing this. Number one, in the old cemetery, many of the veterans never had any markers or have not had any markers during our lifetimes, I'm going to say. And number two, in the new cemetery, many veteran graves do not have any flag holders of any kind whatsoever.
Lee, just
We
curious.
have, yes,
Yeah, question. How much does each marker cost?
it depends upon the war, believe it or not.
Okay. So
But they,
roughly how many marker, if we spend $950, roughly how many markers will that be?
we would get probably about 20 to 25
Yep.
bronze markers with brass rods.
Yeah.
We
I will
have been
make the
going with the,
motion- I will make the motion to approve $950 out of our available funds to purchase the bronze marker holders.
okay, motion is on the floor. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Jim. We will get that going,
Could we write,
and I will place the order accordingly.
could we write an article for the newspaper saying that this committee is doing this for our veterans and what the cost of the markers are? And would anybody in the community like to donate some funding so we could continue buying markers?
That is a possibility. I know that there have been markers placed, at least in the new cemetery in the past. However, the ones that have been placed have been aluminum rods and plastic tops.
No,
And we have received complaints about those.
yeah. They're not
Likewise,
long-lasting.
we have looked into in the past the possibility of aluminum markers, but they are not, from what I have seen, as nearly as attractive or durable as the bronze one.
So we're looking for bronze markers. Is that what you're
So
saying?
that's what we'll be putting in.
Yes.
And how much is each
All right.
bronze marker?
Can we set a date, one or two times that we can work on this?
Sure.
Okay. What day of the week is best for everyone?
Lee, I'm not sure, is this to install the brass holders?
We actually have been installing them.
Yeah, okay. So when do you think they will be available?
We have some already.
So
We have some that we can put out, I think, within the next month would be my guess.
So you're
Okay.
saying this
And
committee
if I
actually,
place an order
you're saying this
immediately
committee,
for additional,
you're saying this committee actually goes in and installs them? You're saying,
going to-
you're saying this committee actually goes in and installs them on the
this
grades?
committee has actually installed them.
Okay.
I'm
What about
not
the-
opposed to installing them, Lee, but why wouldn't we reach out to the Boy Scout troop and get them down to the cemetery some Saturday, and you show them where they ought to, which graves they go to, and let them do the heavy lifting under some adult supervision.
Good idea.
I don't have a problem with it as long as I can coordinate the schedule with them. You want to make that a motion?
Others ought to, discuss on that, but I don't necessarily think the four of us need to be the ones that do the heavy lifting of installing them here. Now I'm having a brain cramp, but the gentleman who's doing all the work in the old cemetery, somebody needs to show which stones are the right ones to put these brass holders on, but
Mhm.
swinging, carrying them around and swinging hammers and so forth, I guess that's how you would install them. I don't think we necessarily need to ask Barb and Ruth to do that.
Okay.
Is that a
Lee?
sexist
And I
comment?
will check with the Boy Scout troop to see if there's a willingness to do this project.
Lee, don't
Is
forget,
there a sense that that's all right?
I would like to suggest that we find someone that would be willing to plant these in the cement first. But don't they go, the markers go in the cement and then they're hardened, then the whole thing goes in the ground?
Dave Gunn is willing to do that part. So if I get them today, he will be willing to do that.
That's step number one then.
Okay. And I will take care of that and go as far as circumstances allow. I mean, maybe Dave is going to Hawaii next week. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lee, how long, if we had, say half a dozen people working on this, the group here and say 3 or 4 scouts, how long do you think it would take to actually install them at the cemetery?
We have in the past with Dave Gunn, Ellen Miles, myself, and maybe one other commission member.
I did. Yep.
Spent maybe 1 or 2 Saturday mornings, 2-3 hours, and in 2 Saturdays it's done.
Yeah. So I would be willing to reach out to the Boy Scout troop and see, what do you think? 3 or 4 weeks from now, whether they could get some members together some Saturday morning and meet us down there?
long as I can clear up a little time, yes, that's all right.
And it would
Well-
all hinge on Dave Gunn.
Yeah,
Well, if Dave Gunn can't do it, then we'll just have to work that logistic out some other way. It's not
Why
a
does
big
it-
deal, but it's simply another time commitment is all I can say.
Why does it hinge on Dave Gunn?
Ruth, he's
Done it
the
in the
one,
past, again.
shall I answer?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. He is the one that plants these into cement containers.
Ah,
And it takes time for the cement to dry and harden, of course, but it's
mhm.
a necessary step because as Lee said, they're easily pulled out of the ground if they're not anchored in something solid
Yeah,
because they're brass and they're worth money.
right.
So he has done it in the past. So that's why we're hinging it on him.
So if
Okay,
we-
I will check with Dave, and
There we
once I get word back from him, then I will give you a call, Jim, and we'll try to schedule the Boy Scouts, all right?
yeah, and
Sounds
if
Okay.
somebody else wants to schedule the Boy Scouts, that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out, we need to involve, younger folks in these projects as well. That's something that they will gain something from doing. It's not just a chore.
Mhm.
And may I add too that the
Don't you
whole,
dare
pro-
say- Oh,
could I add something?
Yes,
go ahead.
This process can speed right along when once they're in the cemetery, if everything is marked ahead of time for the Boy Scouts to do. And there is a special position to put these markers as well, as I found out the last time I did it, which way they're supposed to face.
You have to be careful where you locate them because the groundskeepers don't want to hit them with their lawnmowers or
Yeah,
weed whackers or any other equipment.
right.
You
So-
literally have to tell them, put it in this spot.
Yes, exactly. So we need to coordinate with the person who's in charge of the cemetery as well.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay.
It's a lot of steps, Lee, I think.
So Barb,
Nothing is easy.
No.
Barb,
especially
when
if
you
have
were
a-
installing, I'm just curious, when you were installing these, do you drive them into the ground or do
No.
you dig a hole and plop the concrete piece into it?
Yes,
So
you dig
how-
a hole.
How deep of a hole do you dig?
We dug it until there was about 2 inches, I think, of soil above the cement.
Okay, so that's
It's
a
not
small,
that deep.
that's a
No,
small hole,
At
yeah.
about 8 inches is my guess. 8,
I'm
10
sorry.
inches. 8 to 10 inches, I believe.
Oh, okay,
and you're right. They have to be put in the right spot, or else someone will be unhappy.
Well, I put or the commission installed one on the grave of a World War II veteran that obviously was not in a good location. And one of the lawnmowers knocked it over, broke it off, and the entire marker is missing.
Oh dear.
And I then heard from the widow about how her husband didn't have a flag holding marker and was blaming me.
Well, we'll
Let
just
no
take this,
good deed go unpunished.
we'll just take this a step at a time. It's hard to project a date when we can actually go in the cemetery and do it until we have all these other factors in line ahead of us.
Is there any more discussion about cemetery markers? And I would like to go to new business, line 1, need for additional members. This board should have at least 5 members and preferably an alternate, making 6 people attending on a regular basis. Do
Sorry,
you
son?
have any suggested individuals that you can think of that would be interested in serving? Now, don't all speak up at once.
I think I'd like to think about this and ask some couple of people first if they're interested, and then bring their names forward once they've told me yes.
Okay,
That's reasonable.
Barbara, do you have any ideas or want to think about this?
I do. I concur with Ruth. I would like some time. I would like to ask around. But with
Okay.
COVID,
Jim, what pearls of wisdom do you have to offer?
All I would say have you ever written up I'm going to call it a job description, just a little description of this commission and what's involved in it and some of the things it does, and put that on Facebook and put it out as a press release?
Good idea.
The answer to that is no.
Okay, that's one of the things that needs to be done, because I'm gonna bet you that most people don't know that there's an opportunity, don't know what the Historical Commission does. It's very difficult, as you all know, it's very difficult in this town to get people to volunteer for things. And it's especially difficult with the group that's under, I'm going to say under 50. But I'll tell you, the lady who's now your town moderator, I put something like that on Facebook. I'd never met her before. And a few nights later, we were at a scholarship committee event. And she said, "Hey, I saw your post on Facebook the other day. Tell me more about that." And I did. And long story short, she ended up running for moderator. So I think there's younger people out there who might like to do something like this. They don't want to be, on the school committee or the select board or something. But if it was presented as something kind of fun and helping to preserve the heritage of the town, I think we might be able to generate some interest, and I would help you write something like that.
Well, I know from your Southwood articles, which are great, that you're a very apt, very capable writer, and I'm sure you could put something together that would be fantastic.
Lee, you didn't have to butter me up this time. I already volunteered. Save that for when you need something from me. But thank you. Thank you.
After you've got,
Welcome.
after you've got this wonderful piece written, could you email it to all of us so we could share it with anybody that we would like to talk to about them?
That's a great idea, Ruth, and I will do that.
Thank you.
But
I like that too.
I will draft something and run it by you folks. I'm new to this, so I don't really know. So I'm going to need some help, or otherwise it might be a work of fiction, which wouldn't be very good either.
Okay. Can we move on to Article 2 in the new business? Police and town hall roofs and CPC funding. I have in front of me 2 proposals from Carl Steinert. requesting funds for basically putting together assessment and proposals for roof repair to the slate roof and cupola of the police department, and also a request for the town hall roof, which is, I believe, they're going to break it down for CPC purposes into 3 sections. I'd like to discuss first the police department roof. Have any of you, well, I think both Barb and Ruth have a copy of the historic building inventory form, which I completed a few weeks back.
Right.
Yep.
Jim, have you seen a copy of that inventory form?
I have not. If you
Okay,
could email me that, that would be wonderful.
I will email you a copy.
Wonderful.
Got it?
Yeah, 3
Good.
pages.
Okay.
The building was constructed in 1947 with several additions, and in the project information, it says assessment of slate roof and cupola on historic part of 1940s original structure to determine future course of action to preserve and restore. Criteria that I used for completing that building as a historic building was the criteria that the Massachusetts Historical Commission typically uses for inventories, that the building must be 50 years old and of historic significance to the community. That building is of significance to the town, and the architect of it was Malcolm Bennett Harding, who grew up and was educated in Southwick. And he designed Consolidated School, the original portion, the original part of the former town hall / current police department. He also designed, I believe, the old fellowship hall of the Congregational Church and the parsonage of the Congregational Church. So there are at least 4 commissions that I'm aware of that he did in town. He did extensive work in the region, ranging from Westfield to Chester to West Springfield and in other towns in the area. And the slate roof that they are talking about addressing is the original roof, and the cupola is original to the building, and it houses the original, well, I should say early, Southwick or Dickinson Academy bell in it, which is dated from 1870. So I would certainly recommend that the commission approve utilization of CPC funds for the purpose of putting together an assessment, plans, and specs for that work project.
So moved.
Excuse
Second.
me? Okay, a motion is made, and seconded.
Yeah.
Is there further discussion on this?
Do we have them listed in the order of preference? Like would we prefer one building be done before another and so forth because of their age?
Right now, we're discussing only the police department and the original slate roof. That's all that we're discussing right this minute, and that's all
Okay.
we're voting on.
Okay.
Are there other questions or points of discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to put it to a vote. All in favor of recommending the utilization of CPC funds for the purpose of this project on the current police department, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed? The motion is carried unanimously.
Mr. Hamburg, this is Doug. Sorry to butt in. Just one little procedural thing. Because
Yes.
we're on Zoom and it's sometimes hard to identify folks that are on the phone, every vote taken in a meeting should be via roll call vote. I know you guys only have 4 folks, but other people are going to be watching this video and listening to it on YouTube. So it's better to call the roll and get your votes on record that way. It also will help you with your minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
You can do it going forward. You're fine from here. This is a very small committee. You're in good shape.
Fine. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Next is discussion of the town hall roof HVAC replacement.
Could you tell me what that is?
This is what they are request or putting in. The project is going to remove the shingle roof on the entire structure and replace the roof, gutters, downspout, and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning unit per attached designer recommendations. And the cost of the design work, which will probably happen in between June of 2021 and March of 2022, is estimated at $70,000 to $85,000.
Which building is this, Lee? Which building are
Yep.
we on now?
We're on the current town hall, former consolidated school.
Okay,
All right, so you said there were 3 sections to this proposal. And the first section you mentioned was the HVAC replacement. That's the first one?
No, believe it or not, they were in the CC, Community Preservation Committee, was down by building section. Original main section, 1954, I think, addition, and then the newest addition in sections.
All right, you were breaking up. What was the second one?
Second, it was the 1954 addition.
And the third one is the most latest one with the senior.
The addition for part of the senior center. There's also, I think, another section there for parking a vehicle in, if I'm not mistaken, and miscellaneous, I'm going to say.
Okay, number 3 is, okay. So where did the HVAC come in here? Is that under the original or the 54?
I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I don't have in front of me plans and specifications as to what's going where and where they currently are. So I can't tell you.
Lee,
Can
is
you-
it fair to say, based on the definition from the Mass Historical Commission that you gave me, the new parts of that building are not historical?
Right,
So, you know, whatever new was added there in the mid 1990s, that certainly doesn't meet the 50 years, and
Mhm.
therefore is, you know, they still need to do it. I understand that, but
They
that's
still
not
need to
for
do it.
this committee to approve as a historical thing. Is that right?
I am of that opinion, correct.
Okay.
The current roof that is on the old section was installed in the 1990s and completely changed the roof design.
But that's different than the new sections of the building that were added at that time. So should we take these kind of one by one? I think that's where Barb was going.
I think we're going to have to do it section by section.
Yeah. So
okay.
let's go ahead and do the old section, which is the big part of that building that goes back to 1928 or whatever.
Yeah, the old section was, I think, dedicated in May of 1929, if I'm not mistaken. I could look it up or read the Southwoods article, but it's not important right now.
No, right.
The oldest section, when they did the renovation in the 1990s, prior to that, it had a flat roof.
Correct.
And it had basically 3 flat roofs at 2 different heights. And they installed a trussed hip roof over top of the entire thing. And they closed off all the windows that used to illuminate the gymnasium or auditorium section.
So the original roof is not there.
The original roof is not what you see there today.
But the original building is. And I was on the call when we participated with the CPC, and I know there's a difference of opinion about it, but I remember very vividly at the town meeting where that project was approved, and it wasn't practical. You know, the flat gravel and tar roof had major issues over many years. It was not practical to replace that as is. And so they came up with that modified design. I don't think we need to debate whether that's the original or not. It's not the original. It's what needed to be done in order to preserve that building. But the whole rationale, I mean, the cheapest thing for the town to have done in the 1990s would have been to demolish that building. And there were people who proposed that. If you remember, somebody that was respected in town, Bud Engelhardt, said, if you want to do this most economically, knock it down and
Boy.
start all over again with a steel frame building. It was touted as it was sold to the public as a historical preservation project with a modified roof, no doubt about it. But it seems to me that the purpose of that was to preserve that beautiful historic building that we're all proud of now. The roof, to use the change in roof as an excuse not to support that, seems to me to kind of go against what was touted as a historical preservation project in the 1990s. So I would favor recommending that, even though it's not the original roof.
Okay. So you're in favor of utilizing funds for design work for the old section?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If that's a
Barbara, do
motion,
you
I'll
have any
second it.
thought?
I
What,
said,
Ruth?
if that's a motion, I'll second it.
It is a motion, Ruth. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to expend CPC funds for the main roof. Is there further discussion about this?
Well, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable doing that. What is the definition of, I mean, it's not the original roof. It doesn't have any semblance of what it did look like. What are the guidelines for us here? I understand what Jim is saying, but there's nothing historical about it. The roof, that is.
About the building.
I'm not
See
talking
that
the
there are
building.
some nice guidelines. You follow A, B, C, and you vote X, Y, Z. We may come down to semantics and definitions. And does this represent capital improvement? Is it maintenance? Is it preservation, or is it rehabilitation?
Well, is it an old building?
Well, yes.
It is an old building. It is inventoried with the Massachusetts Historical Commission.
Well, to preserve that building, you've got to have a good roof on it.
Good point.
Hmm.
If it is classified as maintenance, it would be incidental repairs. I don't see that as being the case. I don't see it as being a capital improvement. I'm reading the definitions that are given in the Community Preservation Act legislation, all right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it as materially adding to the value of the real property. If it's preservation, that would be protection of real property from harm or destruction. And if it's rehabilitation, that would be making extraordinary repairs for the purpose of making that resource functional for its intended use. So the question is, out of those four categories, is it preservation or rehabilitation?
I think it's
Really both,
preservation.
isn't it?
What?
Go ahead, Ruth.
Oh, I think it's preservation.
Okay. Jim, what's your thoughts?
I'll go with preservation. I think it's either or both, but it's certainly
Okay.
preservation because that beautiful building that's underneath the roof, it needs that roof not to leak because and I'm sure the rest of you were in there before the project was done in the mid 90s, but we almost lost that building because it had leaked so badly for so many years. There were parts of it that were in rough shape because that old roof could not do the job.
Okay, Barbara,
Well,
what's your perspective? Preservation or rehabilitation?
they're preserving a roof to protect an old structure. I understand that. But are we talking about, what are we exactly talking about? We're talking about the money needed to put a
This
new
just
roof on?
At
Yep.
this point in time, this is just for, basically plans and specs.
Well, why do they need specs when the roof is in existence and it was renovated in 1990s?
They're going to put it out to bid. So if they don't have, plans and specifications for the roof, then they're not going to get any bids. Because every contractor has to be bidding on the exact same
Okay,
thing.
Barb, my understanding is that the roof is at the end of its expected life, which is hard to believe, but it's 25 years old, and it's beginning to have be compromised in places. Roofs in our climate, even when it's a hip roof and it's pitched like that, they don't they don't last forever. So I believe, Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, the one at the police station, there's quite a bit of leakage going on. I'm not sure there's a lot going on with the consolidated quite yet, but they anticipate that. Have I got that about right?
It sounds about right. I could check into that, but we know that if they're not leaking right now, then
They
in a
will.
few years,
It
they're
will
going
be.
to.
And that's the point.
There's no doubt.
It's at the end of its life, and I don't recall this, but I'm sure it's out of warranty. They warranty those roofs for something like 10 years or something, and then at
Oh,
some
yeah.
point you're on your own. So
Absolutely. The reason why I have asked whether it's preservation or rehabilitation is because if it is classified as rehabilitation, then they would have to comply with the United States Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties.
Oh,
It sounds to me like everyone concludes that it's basically a preservation project. They're just trying to preserve the roof and the building from harm or destruction.
I know this isn't related, but I have several friends that are replacing their roof right now because these windstorms have damaged it. I mean, we've had really strong winds. And I don't know if that's
Oh, yeah.
affected any of the roofs over there, but they have around town, that's for sure.
So the town fathers are requesting from us a vote in support of what they want is to tap into the CPA funds to put a new roof on.
Correct.
Is that right?
It sounds right.
Put a
Yeah,
new
they
roof
want
on.
our endorsement of it.
I'm sorry, what?
They want the commission's endorsement because obviously that would be a plus when it comes before town meeting.
So this committee this commission basically makes a recommendation to the CPC. The CPC then considers it along with other requests and projects they may have. They make a recommendation on it. It goes to the town meeting for
Correct.
approval. So
Right.
this is step one of three. And it's really, in my view, the CPC that does the juggling act of, does this fit into the overall set of priorities? How much funds have they got on hand? This, that, and the
Right.
other thing.
Yeah.
So this is step one, but I just think that again, we've kind of beat this around, but I will make a confession now. I was one of the ones, and actually in the 1980s, I was on the finance committee at the time that we closed down the consolidated school as a school in 1981 because of budget limitations and declining school enrollments at that time. And I was one of the ones who felt we ought to demolish it. And because it was clearly the best financial thing to do for the town, no doubt about it. But others felt otherwise. And I would tell you now that, so I was about, 29 or 30 years old at that time. I was wrong. It was, the right thing to do was to preserve that building. Is it exactly the way it was built in 1929? Nope, it isn't. Is it a gorgeous, preservation that has practical utility for the town? And, really preserve, was anybody going up there and looking at the old roof and saying, wow, that's a really neat thing? No, it's the facade of that building. It's the interior architect, treatment. I'm not going to say architecture, but the interior treatment, that beautiful meeting hall that's in there. That was all worth saving, but you got to have a good roof over it. And I just think that this is a, kind of a part of being, good citizens in town, that now they've got to do a replacement, and it's going to be expensive. Everybody knows that. But if some CPC funds can be used to, pay it down the road further, then that's a good use of CPC funds.
Okay,
And
Is there other,
I was just
Go
going to
ahead,
say
Barbara.
that the process for this is we recommend it to the CPC, and then they take it to town meeting, and then the finance committee gets their voice heard on it too.
yep,
why? They do.
Yep.
So
all
we're still,
right, we have a motion on the floor from Jim. Go ahead.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Ah,
Oh, now you're getting to the point.
Yes, because I'm not totally convinced.
he's disappeared.
I am of the opinion at
He's
this point
hiding.
in time that this would be classified as a preservation of real property from harm or destruction. That is in accordance and compliance with the Community Preservation Act. And I will hesitantly vote in favor of preserving, of utilizing funds, or recommending the utilization of CPC funds for the original section roof.
Okay,
That is
that's,
my opinion at this point.
we're just talking, yes, we're just talking the original section. We're not talking about
Correct.
the 54 edition nor the latest additions that have been put on, just the original historic section of the building.
And I put this to a vote at this time.
So we're looking for a specs. Forget what the word is called, to specifications to be written up so that when they put this out to bid, they'll have exactly what we want or what needs to be done to this roof. This is
Correct.
just for the specs only. All right, then are they
This-
going to
just
come?
get the ball rolling.
So then they're going to come back to us again and have us use our money from our reserve account to put the roof on?
They will have to come, in all likelihood, back. They would ask us again if they wish to use CPC funds for the actual roof.
So if we vote yes for this, we're also voting for the fact that, yes, when it comes down to it, we're going to be paying for the specifications drawn up and for the roof to be put on the old part only.
Potentially. That's not what we're voting on right now, but I
No,
know where
but-
you're coming from, Barbara.
That's what I see down the line. If we're paying for out of the CPC monies or CPA money, we're paying for the specifications, and then we're going to end up possibly paying for the actual work done on the roof, on the old part.
Or a proportion thereof, depending upon how the CPC votes or recommends, and how the finance and how the Board of Selectmen work up, the final bids and where the funds are going to come from. I suspect that there will be some general funds involved in this project.
Oh, okay. All right.
I would, if I were a betting man, I would say when it comes time to do the project, they will probably have to bond for it. I don't think there's
I
enough.
suspect so.
I don't think there's enough money in either the CPC fund or, general revenues that they're going to just bite the bullet and pay cash in a single fiscal year for that. I don't know. I'm not involved with that stuff anymore. But, very typically a project like this would be bonded over a 10-year period or something like that. And
Yep.
then the bond would be repaid from general revenues, not from CPC.
I see that as being the most likely scenario too, Jim.
I don't think the vote tonight commits us to any further funding.
No, I understand it gives Ruth, she will represent the Southwick Historical Commission. The way we vote, she'll represent the way we vote. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So we're
All
actually
right.
voting.
All in favor? I'm going to put it to a vote at this time. Ruth, are you in favor of expending Community Preservation Act funds for design work for the old section of the town hall?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I
Barbara
abstain?
Phelps?
Do you need my yay or nay?
Yes or no?
Oh,
We're not going to.
all right. Okay, I'll vote for it.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes. And I will also vote yes for this.
Okay, here we go.
So the motion is carried unanimously for the old section.
Old section only.
All right, let's move on to the addition, the old addition.
To what? The old addition to
What are your
what?
thoughts as far as using Community Preservation Act funds on the 1950s edition? Just give
But
some thoughts.
that falls within the age of being historic, does it?
Nominally, yes.
I'm confused.
The reason why I
Addition to
say
what
that-
building? Addition to what building? are
This
you
is
talking
still
about?
the town hall.
The town
Oh.
hall, the south wing there, that where the senior center is located, Ruth, that was built. Lee, I'm not going to argue with you, but I think it was built in the late 1940s, around 48, 49, but somewhere in that vicinity, not, older than Lee and I anyway.
I was on the committee when they were voting on adding like the gymnasium section. That whole back section is not that old.
Yeah, we're not voting on that section yet.
Okay. Well, what section are we voting on?
I can tell you that when historic building inventory form was completed, I'm taking a guess and say late 1980s or 90s, that section was on, that section existed at the time. So that has been included in the historic inventory.
Well, based on
What are
that,
your
then-
thoughts? Yes, Jim.
No, based on that, if that's on the historical inventory as well for being over 50 years and so forth, quite frankly, I think that's going to be a much simpler project because it's just one roof and it's a relatively small part of the building. But I would make the motion to approve that one as well.
Okay, a motion is made to expend funds to recommend the utilization of Community Preservation Act funds for development of plans and specifications for the old addition to the present town hall. Is there a second to that motion? I will second that for purposes of continuing this. Is there further discussion on using CPC funds for that section? Questions, dilemmas, problems?
It just seems like I remember some of the roof being put on over there recently.
I
Could
think
be
that
wrong.
I
That's
think
the
that's,
third.
yeah, that's group 3 here that we're going to talk about. You're right, Ruth. There are some sections on the back side of that building, the east side of that building, that are new that we're going to talk about in the next group here. We're talking about the portion of the building that was actually built early 1950s.
So that would be the front of the building.
No, back of the building where the senior center is now.
part of the senior center is.
Part of it, yeah. The original part of it.
So the roof that was done on the senior center was not the section we're talking about. Because I remember the roof being done.
No, we're not yet. That's part 3.
Okay, Jim has put a motion and it has been seconded.
Yeah.
All in favor of recommending the utilization of Community Preservation Act funds for specifications and preservation of the 1950s roof? Jim Putnam?
Aye, yes.
Aye. Barbara?
Barbara Phelps, aye.
Aye. Ruth Preston?
Aye.
And Lee Hamburg? Aye. The motion is carried unanimously. Deal with the newest section of the roofs. I don't see them as being historic at this point in time. I don't see them as being included in the initial historic building inventory form, and I do not wish to see any Community Preservation Act funds expended for them.
Second
So
the
that is
motion.
my thought.
Second your motion,
Jim?
Lee,
I'm going to make that a motion.
and I second it.
Excuse me, would you repeat
Oh.
the motion? Would you repeat the motion?
Motion is made and seconded not to expend Community Preservation Act funds on the newest roofs.
Oh, okay.
Is there further discussion? Okay, Jim?
In favor of the motion, yes.
Okay. Ruth?
In favor of the motion.
And Barbara,
In favor of the motion.
and Lee Hamberg, yes. Aye. So we do not recommend the utilization of CPC funds for the newest roofs.
How many have we approved of CPC funds for roofs? How many exactly have we passed?
The
I've lost track.
Morehouse? Maybe?
Morehouse is the
How
only
many,
roof project
how
that I'm
many
aware of.
motions did we pass to take money from the CPC for roofs for historic buildings
Tonight,
tonight? Yeah,
we had 2 buildings and 4 different sections, and we recommended 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. Okay. Because I know CPC is very hesitant to spend money, so hoping we're not asking too much.
Understood. And the CPC may recommend or give a recommendation that that funds not be expended, or that only a portion of the
Yeah, they could
initial
do that.
cost be expended.
Mhm.
But our vote will have some weight when Ruth meets with them. Will have some weight
Mhm.
in their
It-
deliberation
oh.
process.
There's, and I don't know the numbers, maybe Ruth or Lee does, but there's only a certain portion of the CPC funds that can be used for historical projects. It's like 10% maybe, and it accumulates. How much is it, Lee?
10%.
Yeah, 10%, and it accumulates if it's not spent. So, so depends, what's been done in the recent past. And this is probably not appropriate at this committee meeting, but, all I would say is, they easily spent over $1 million to provide lighting for the baseball fields at Wally Park 3 or 4 years ago. I look at what we're asking for here as, quite frankly, a lot more valuable to the town than putting lighting up at Wally Park. But that's my personal opinion, and it deals with, history or, things that have already happened. But so I think my understanding is for this particular, the Historical Commission, we're dealing only with matters of, historical preservation in town. And I think this is clearly, both of these buildings are marquee buildings in the center of our town. I've come to appreciate much better in the last, 5 years, what a beautiful downtown area that we have. And these are 2 buildings that, really do, the community, rightfully is very proud of. So I feel good about the expenditures.
I read an article lately, or I heard somebody talking, I'm not sure which it was, about how some towns have taken down buildings and put up new buildings, and they've lost that old New England feel to them because they've eliminated so many of their older buildings.
Yep. No, amen.
Moving right on, we have Article 4, which is possible CPC projects. I would like to forgo this at this time because the hour is getting late. It is already 20 of 9, and I have to get up at 4 o'clock.
Ooh,
Do I hear a motion to
Adjourn the meeting.
dispense with Article 4 from new business?
so moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Other business. There are other businesses that needs to come before this board at this time.
Lee, when do you think the next meeting would be?
Why don't we set that up? Typically, we meet the first Monday evening of the month.
Mhm.
And I want to suggest that we meet May 3rd.
When is town meeting?
Third Tuesday of May, however that falls.
First Monday, May 3rd.
We can't hear you, Lee.
Monday, May 3rd.
Yes, Mondays, yes.
I know that's better than Tuesdays, Barbara.
Yes, Tuesdays are difficult.
I understand. I will put together an agenda and submit it far ahead of time. It was a little bit of a hassle, to say the least.
Yes. Now, did you intentionally skip number 3, need to update inventory? Well, is that going to be shelved as well?
I'll entertain a motion to dispense with that at this time.
So moved.
Okay,
Second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. And
Do we
will
have
meet-
to give our names for these when we vote?
Well, he said we're supposed to.
Let's plan on meeting on Monday. And I will get a notice out to you long before then, I hope. Thank you very much. And thank you, Doug, for hosting us. And I wish you all a good evening.